Commander Alex Wright jerked awake as the piercing alarm cut through 2 centuries of dreamless sleep. His eyes burned, lungs gasping for air that tasted stale and artificial. The cryopod hissed open, releasing him into the dim blue emergency. Lighting of Lunar Base Alpha. "Protocol bell has been activated," announced the calm female voice of the base AI. "All military personnel report to stations." "This is not a drill." Wright stumbled from the pod, his muscles remembering their function with surprising speed. He had expected weakness after 200 years of hibernation, but instead felt a strange energy coursing through his body. His mind was unusually clear, processing information at an accelerated rate. The last thing he remembered was the celebration. Humanity had finally achieved peace among the stars. The great warships were mothballed, military forces reduced to a skeleton crew kept in cryosleep as a precaution. The Bell Protocol was designed as the absolute last resort, to be triggered only in case of existential threat to human civilization. "Commander!" a voice called from the doorway. Major Lisa Bennett stood there, already dressed in her uniform. Like Wright, she showed no signs of cryo-sickness. Her eyes were alert, focused. "What's happening, Bennett?" Wright asked, pulling on the simple gray jumpsuit that had been prepared for Awakening Day. "You need to see this," she said, her voice tight with controlled emotion. "Central Command, 5 minutes." The corridors of Lunar Base Alpha were filling with confused personnel, some still in their medical gowns, others hastily dressed in uniform. Wright noticed something odd in their movements. Despite just awakening from centuries of sleep, everyone moved with precision and purpose. No one stumbled or hesitated. The command center was a flurry of activity when Wright arrived. Screens flickered to life around the circular room, dormant systems reactivating after their long slumber. In the center stood Bennett beside an older man with a scientist's badge. Dr. Greg Nichols, if Wright remembered correctly. "Commander on deck," someone called, and the room snapped to attention. "At ease," Wright said. "Someone tell me why we're awake." Bennett nodded to a technician who pulled up a star map on the main screen. 3 systems were highlighted in red. 3 peaceful species we made contact with before hibernation, Bennett explained. The Kalani, the Vexar, and the Mithrani, all wiped out in the past month. Wright stared at the screen. "How do we know this?" "Automated defense satellites remained active during our sleep," Dr. Nichols said, stepping forward. "They've been collecting data. 4 days ago, they registered a complete communication blackout from these systems. Drone scouts were dispatched and confirmed total planetary destruction." Wright felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. "Who did this?" Bennett tapped her tablet, and the screen changed to show grainy footage of sleek, crystalline ships moving with impossible grace through the wreckage of a planetary defense system. "Unknown species," she said. "No match in our databases, but they left a message at each site." She hesitated before reading from her tablet. "The sleepers must never wake." The room fell silent. "They're coming for us," Wright said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, sir," Bennett replied. "Deep space sensors detect a massive fleet heading toward our solar system. Estimated arrival, 72 hours. Wright closed his eyes, processing this information. When he opened them, he found himself already formulating complex battle strategies, considering variables and outcomes with a clarity and speed he had never experienced before. "There's something else," Dr. Nichols said, clearing his throat. "We're detecting unusual neural activity in all awakened personnel. Your brains are operating at efficiency levels we've never recorded in humans before." To demonstrate, Nichols projected a complex tactical scenario on the screen. This would normally take our best strategists hours to solve. Wright studied it for exactly 4.3 seconds. Northern assault is a feint. Main force should concentrate. Here and here with reserve units positioned at these coordinates. The solution appeared in his mind with perfect clarity, as if he'd always known it. Nichols and Bennett exchanged looks. "That's exactly right," Nichols said. "And you shouldn't be able to do that." Over the next few hours, similar reports came in from across the base. Weapons specialists found they could disassemble and reassemble complex systems with their eyes closed. Engineers intuitively understood alien technology they'd never seen before. Communications officers could detect patterns in random noise. In the medical lab, Dr. Nichols connected Wright to a neural scanner while Bennett watched. "It's the cryopods," Nichols explained, studying the readouts. The neural interface was designed to prevent brain damage during hibernation by creating a minimal feedback loop with the unconscious mind. But over centuries, something unexpected happened. "What?" Wright asked. "Evolution," Nichols said simply. "Or perhaps reversion. Your neural pathways have been reorganized. It's as if your brain spent 200 years in accelerated development, specifically focused on warfare." Bennett frowned. "Are you saying we evolved in our sleep?" "Not just evolved," Nichols said quietly. "I think something was awakened that was always there, dormant in human DNA. Something ancient." Wright was about to respond when an alarm blared. A young lieutenant rushed into the lab, his face pale. "Sir, we've intercepted communications from the alien fleet," he said. "They're accelerating. New arrival estimate is 36 hours. And, sir, they're broadcasting a message on all frequencies." "Play it," Wright ordered. The room's speakers crackled and a strange, multi-toned voice spoke in perfect English. "We come to contain the threat. We come to silence the war gods before they remember. Sleep forever, or face extinction." Bennett's tablet pinged with an incoming message. Her eyes widened as she read it. "Sir, reports are coming in from all awakened bases. Everyone is experiencing the same changes. And the orbital defense platforms just came online automatically. Systems we never programmed." Wright stood up, disconnecting himself from the scanner. In his mind, battle plans formed with crystal clarity. He could see the coming conflict from every angle, anticipate every move and counter-move. Something was stirring in his blood, ancient and powerful. "Get me a secure channel to all bases," he ordered, "and wake up everyone, every soldier, every ship, every weapon." "Sir," Bennett said, "most of our fleet has been in mothballs for 2 centuries. We can't possibly." Wright cut her off. "We don't need centuries, Major. We need hours, and somehow I think we'll manage." He looked around at the room, at the faces showing the same strange awakening he felt. "They're right to fear us. They just don't know why yet." As he spoke, the first of the great warships, silent for 200 years, began powering up in its lunar dock, systems coming online with a rumble that shook the base. Across the solar system, humanity's sleeping arsenal was waking up, just like its creators. The war gods were stirring, and someone had just rung the bell. Captain Stephanie Grant stood on the bridge of the UES Valkyrie, her fingers lightly touching the command console. The warship had been sleeping for 2 centuries, yet it hummed to life under her touch, as if it had been waiting just for her. "Weapons. Status," she ordered, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "All systems online, Captain," replied Kate Peterson, the weapons officer. "Targeting systems are running at 127% efficiency. I can't explain it, but I know exactly where they'll be before they move." Grant nodded. She had noticed similar changes in herself. The complex battle calculations that once required computer assistance now flowed through her mind with effortless precision. She could visualize the entire solar system as a 3-dimensional battlefield, plotting moves and counter-moves with perfect clarity. "Communications check," she called out. Eric Dalton looked up from his station, his eyes wide with wonder. "Captain, I'm picking up the alien transmissions. I can understand them. Not just decode, I mean I understand their language without the translation software." Grant raised an eyebrow. "What are they saying?" "They're afraid," Dalton said simply. "They keep repeating the same phrase in their communications. The ancient ones must not remember." The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. The Valkyrie was one of 50 warships hastily recommissioned after the awakening. Across the fleet, similar reports were coming in, humans discovering abilities they had never possessed before. "Captain," said the navigator, "Admiral Rodriguez is hailing all ships from the Thunderchild." On screen, Grant ordered. Admiral Paul Rodriguez's face appeared on the main display. Like everyone else, he showed no signs of the long cryosleep, his eyes clear and focused. "Fleet status report," he said without preamble. "Valkyrie ready for combat, Admiral," Grant responded. "My crew is experiencing the same neural changes reported throughout the fleet." Rodriguez nodded. "It's happening everywhere. Dr. Nichols on Lunar Base believes our brains were rewiring themselves during hibernation. But there's more to it." He leaned closer to the camera. "I can feel the fleet, Captain. Not just know its position. I can feel each ship like it's part of my body." Grant wasn't surprised. Strange as it was, nothing seemed impossible anymore. "The alien armada has passed Mars orbit," Rodriguez continued. "They outnumber us 10-1. Conventional tactics say we don't stand a chance." A grim smile touched his lips. "Good thing we're not conventional anymore. Stand by for battle plans." The display changed to show the solar system. The alien fleet, over 500 crystalline vessels, moved in perfect formation toward Earth. The human ships were positioned in what appeared to be a scattered, disorganized defense. "This looks like suicide," Peterson muttered. Grant studied the plan and suddenly understood. "No, it's brilliant. We're not fighting as individual ships. We're fighting as a single organism." The battle began 30 minutes later. The alien fleet approached Jupiter's orbit, their formation shifting to engage the seemingly disorganized human defenders. The first shots fired across the void of space, brilliant beams of energy slicing through the darkness. What should have been a massacre became something else entirely. The human fleet moved with impossible coordination. Gaps appeared in their formation exactly when needed, traps closed with perfect timing. It was as if every captain, every crew member knew exactly what all the others would do before they did it. On the Valkyrie's bridge, Grant felt it, a connection to the other ships and their crews, a battle consciousness that linked them together. She found herself giving orders that perfectly complemented actions taken by vessels on the other side of the battlefield, without any direct communication. "They're trying to flank the Orion and Pegasus," she said, knowing it with certainty, despite having no tactical data to support it. "Alter course to intercept full burn." The Valkyrie swung around Jupiter's largest moon, using its gravity to slingshot directly into the path of 3 alien vessels that had indeed been moving to ambush the human ships. The aliens, caught by surprise, scattered. "Firing solution," Peterson called out, her hands moving across her console with blinding speed. "I can see their weak points. Their shield harmonics fluctuate at regular intervals." The Valkyrie's weapons discharged, beams of concentrated energy striking at precisely the right moment. 3 alien ships shattered like glass. Similar scenes played out across the battlefield. The human fleet, though outnumbered, fought with the coordinated grace of a single entity. Ships moved in complex patterns impossible to predict, weapons fired with uncanny accuracy. Admiral Rodriguez, standing on the Thunderchild's bridge, felt every victory and loss as if they were happening to his own body. Through this strange new sense, he directed the fleet not with orders but with intent, the ships responding to his will like extensions of himself. After 3 hours of intense fighting, the alien advance force broke formation and retreated. Of their 50 ships, only 12 escaped. The human fleet had lost only 3 vessels. As the survivors regrouped, a transmission came through on all frequencies. "This is not possible," a multi-toned voice stated. "You were contained. You were forgotten." Rodriguez stepped forward on his bridge. "We are defending our home. Retreat now and we will not pursue." A pause followed, then, "You have forgotten what you are. We remembered. And we feared." The transmission cut off. On the Valkyrie, Grant ordered damage reports. Despite the victory, questions weighed heavily on her mind. "Why do they know us?" she asked aloud. "What exactly did we forget?" Dalton looked up from his communication station. "Captain, I'm receiving a priority message from Earth. Dr. Olivia Mason has discovered something in the Gobi Desert. They're calling it the God Chamber." Grant's heart raced as images appeared on her screen, an ancient underground structure covered in markings that looked disturbingly familiar. though she knew she had never seen them before. Those symbols, Peterson whispered, staring at the screen. I can read them. She looked up, her face pale. How can I read a language that no human has ever seen? Grant felt a chill run down her spine. The main alien fleet was still coming, thousands of ships strong. But now she understood that the true battle wasn't just in space. It was within themselves, against the mystery of what humanity had once been. Tell Lunar Command we need answers, she ordered. Before the main fleet arrives, we need to know what we're truly fighting for, and what we're fighting against. As she spoke, more reports flooded in from across the solar system. Humans everywhere were awakening to abilities that defied explanation. And somewhere beyond Neptune, the main alien armada approached, determined to ensure that humanity would never fully remember its true nature. The War of Remembrance had only just begun. Dr. Olivia Mason brushed sand from the ancient stone wall, her heart racing. The chamber lay deep beneath the Gobi Desert, accidentally discovered when ground-scanning satellites were reactivated after the awakening. What should have been a simple geological survey had instead revealed this, a structure that, according to initial dating, was at least 50,000 years old. This predates all known human civilization, she whispered to herself, running her fingers over the strange symbols carved into the stone. They seemed to glow faintly at her touch, as if responding to her presence. Dr. Mason, called Frank Cordova, the linguist who had arrived by emergency transport just hours ago. He hurried down the narrow passage, his flashlight beam bouncing off the walls. You need to see this, the main chamber is... He stopped, staring at the wall where Mason's hand rested. The symbols are glowing. They react to human touch, Mason said. She felt drawn to the symbols as if they had been waiting for her. More disturbing was the fact that she was beginning to understand them, despite never having seen this language, before Cordova approached, placing his palm against the stone. The symbols glowed brighter. I can read this, he said, his voice filled with wonder and fear. How can I read this? Together they moved deeper into the structure, following the sloping passage downward. The walls were covered with carvings, scenes, depicting humanoid figures wielding powers beyond imagination. In one image, a single human-like figure stood with arms raised while a star exploded. In another, humans fought against crystalline beings that looked disturbingly like the ships now approaching Earth. The passage opened into a vast circular chamber, its ceiling so high that their lights couldn't reach it. The walls were a continuous mural, telling a story that made Mason's skin crawl with both fear and strange recognition. It's a history, Cordova said, moving slowly around the chamber. Our history, but not the one we know. Mason nodded. The carvings showed humans, or beings that looked exactly like humans, engaged in cosmic warfare. They wielded powers that bent reality itself, destroyed entire star systems, and reshaped galaxies. They were not depicted as explorers or settlers, but as warriors so powerful that the universe itself trembled at their presence. This section describes their power, Cordova said, pointing to a series of symbols. It says we, were living weapons, created or evolved for warfare on a cosmic scale. By whom? Mason asked. Cordova shook his head. It doesn't say. But this part here describes how they nearly tore apart the fabric of reality in a war that lasted millennia. At the center of the chamber stood a raised dais with a simple stone pedestal. On it rested a metallic sphere, untarnished despite its age. Mason approached it cautiously. Don't touch that, Cordova warned. We don't know what it is. But Mason felt drawn to the sphere, as if it had been waiting specifically for her. I think I do, she said softly. It's a memory. She placed her hands on the cool metal. Instantly, images flooded her mind. Stars being born and dying, civilizations rising and falling, and humans, always humans, at the center of cosmic conflicts beyond comprehension. We weren't native to Earth, she gasped, pulling her hands away. We were placed here, contained here. Cordova looked alarmed. What do you mean? The sphere contains fragments of memories, history recorded by whoever brought humans to Earth. She struggled to organize the overwhelming information. We were too dangerous. Some power, something ancient, stripped us of our abilities and memories, placing us on Earth to evolve anew. As an act of punishment? Cordova asked. Mason shook her head. No. Mercy. We chose this. She touched the sphere again briefly. At least some of us did. We saw what we had become, the destruction we caused, and asked to be reset, to have a chance to evolve toward peace instead of war. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The Bell Protocol wasn't just a warning system. It was named after an actual bell, this chamber. If humanity was threatened with extinction, our true nature would begin to reawaken. Thousands of miles away, Lieutenant Ryan Cooper led his special operations team through the captured alien vessel. They had boarded during the battle near Jupiter, their mission to gather intelligence directly from the source. Movement ahead, whispered Sarah Williams, the team's point scout. 2 signatures non-human. Cooper nodded, signaling the team to move forward carefully. The interior of the alien ship was oddly familiar to him, as if he had walked these corridors before. When they encountered 2 crystalline beings, Cooper found he instinctively knew their vulnerabilities, where to strike to disable rather than kill. With the aliens subdued, the team pushed toward what Cooper somehow knew was the ship's data center. The alien technology should have been incomprehensible, but Cooper found he could interface with it almost naturally. This is impossible, he muttered as his fingers moved across the alien control surfaces. What are you finding? Asked Williams. Surveillance logs, Cooper replied, his eyes widening, of Earth. Going back millions of years. He brought up images of ancient human civilizations, then even earlier hominids. They've been watching us the entire time, waiting. Cooper downloaded the data to a secure device. They've been terrified of us remembering who we are. Back on Earth, Intelligence Officer Maria Delgado questioned the alien prisoner that Cooper's team had brought back. The being's crystalline form pulsed with light as it communicated. Why have you attacked us? Delgado asked. To preserve the universe, the alien replied. Its thoughts translated into words by a device that Delgado had instinctively known how to build. You were the destroyers, the war deities. You almost ended everything. That was millions of years ago, Delgado countered. For beings like you, time is nothing. Sleep is nothing. The containment is failing. Already you access abilities no mortal species should possess. Delgado felt a strange sensation building in her mind. Memories that weren't hers, yet somehow were. We're not the same beings we were then. We've changed. No. The alien's lights pulsed urgently. You only forgot. Now you remember. Soon you will be as you were. And all will burn. As the alien spoke, Delgado's mind shattered open. Memories flooded in, not just of a human life, but of something vast and ancient. She saw herself as a being of nearly unlimited power, fighting across the stars. She saw worlds burn and stars collapse. And she saw herself, along with others like her, making a choice, choosing to surrender that power, to be bound within mortal forms, to sleep and forget, and perhaps grow into something better. When she came back to herself, she was on her knees, tears streaming down her face. The alien watched her with its faceted eyes. You remember, it said simply. Yes, Delgado whispered. I remember everything. The Bell Protocol didn't just wake us from cryosleep. It's breaking the seals on our true memory. She looked up at the alien. But you're wrong about one thing. We aren't the same. We have changed. She stood, feeling power coursing through her, veins ancient and new at once. And I need to tell the others what's coming. Colonel Keith Warren stood at the window of the orbital command station, watching Earth turn slowly below. Reports flooded in from around the world. Humans everywhere were experiencing accelerated transformations. Military leaders could now, strategize across impossible dimensions. Engineers understood technologies that hadn't existed yesterday. Ordinary citizens woke with abilities that defied explanation. "Status report," Warren said, turning to face the command center. "Sir, the alien armada has passed Neptune's orbit," replied his tactical officer. "Estimated arrival time, 12 hours. Warren nodded. The situation was evolving too rapidly for conventional planning. An hour ago, he had discovered he could process strategic information across 11 dimensions simultaneously. The battle plans forming in his mind operated on levels that would have been incomprehensible to him just days before. And our fleet? Every dormant ship has been activated. Engineers are implementing modifications that... The officer hesitated. "Sir, they're building weapons we don't even have names for." On the engineering deck of Lunar Base Alpha, Susan Alvarez guided her team through modifications that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere in her mind. Her hands moved with perfect certainty over systems she had never seen before, installing components that bent the laws of physics. "The power coupling won't handle this load," one of her engineers protested. "It will," Alvarez said simply. She could see the energy flows, could visualize how to channel forces that no human engineering had ever controlled. "The quantum field will stabilize once we activate the harmonic resonator." The engineer looked skeptical but continued working. Everywhere around them, similar scenes played out. Humans operating with knowledge they shouldn't possess, accessing memories that weren't theirs, yet somehow were. Dr. Nichols and his research team monitored the transformations from their lab. The neural changes were accelerating exponentially. "It's the proximity of the aliens," Nichols explained to Commander Wright and Major Bennett. "Their presence, their fear of us. It's ironically speeding up the process." "What process exactly?" Bennett asked. Nichols gestured to the brain scans displayed on the screens. "The awakening of who we really are. Dr. Mason's findings in the Gobi Desert confirm it. We were cosmic entities of immense power, voluntarily bound in human form. The Bell Protocol wasn't just a defense system, it was a trigger to restore our true nature if we were ever threatened with extinction." "Are you saying we're turning back into gods?" Wright asked. "War deities specifically," Nichols corrected. "Beings evolved or created for cosmic warfare, but the transformation isn't uniform." He pulled up a series of individual scans. Each person is evolving differently. The changes reflect their individual nature, their skills, their core self. Bennett studied the scans. "How far will this go?" "I don't know," Nichols admitted, "but I suspect we're only seeing the beginning." In Earth orbit, the main alien armada finally arrived. Thousands of crystalline ships surrounded the planet, their formation a perfect geometric pattern that somehow hurt the eyes to look at directly. At their center was a vessel 10 times larger than the others, the command ship of Supreme Hierarch, Zontar. The alien leader broadcast across all Earth frequencies. "Humans of Earth," the multi-toned voice resonated. "Your containment has failed. Already you access powers not meant for mortal beings. We offer one path to survival: voluntary extinction. Surrender your transformation, return to sleep, and a portion of your species will be spared to continue under our supervision. Refuse, and we will be forced to eliminate your planet entirely." In the orbital command center, Colonel Warren received the transmission alongside Admiral Rodriguez, who had returned from the Jupiter battle. "They're afraid," Rodriguez said simply. Warren nodded. "With good reason, it seems." The Admiral's eyes had a strange glow to them now. During the battle at Jupiter, he had manifested the ability to perceive and direct his entire fleet as extensions of himself. That power had only grown since. "I propose a counteroffensive," Rodriguez said. "One they won't expect." "What do you have in mind?" "We use what we've become." The Admiral's voice was calm, certain. "All of us, together." The plan came together, with impossible speed. Around Earth, Mars, and the Moon, transformed humans prepared for a coordinated assault that defied conventional warfare. Each person contributed their unique evolved abilities to a strategy that operated across multiple dimensions of reality. In orbit around Mars, pilot Jack Murphy discovered he could merge his consciousness with his fighter craft. During a training run, his mind had somehow flowed into the ship's systems. Now he was the ship, feeling its engines as his own muscles, its sensors as extended senses, its weapons as natural extensions of his will. He wasn't alone. Across the fleet, pilots experienced similar transformations. They became living weapons, flying with impossible grace and coordination. On one of the alien dreadnoughts, Marine Squad Leader Diane Foster led her boarding team through corridors that should have been impenetrable. She had discovered she could perceive weak points in any structure or being, seeing fault lines, stress points, and vulnerabilities that no one else could detect. "There," she said, pointing to a seemingly solid wall. "Strike there, and the entire security system will collapse." Her team followed her instructions without question. Throughout the day, they had watched her predict and exploit weaknesses with perfect accuracy. The wall shattered, revealing the ship's control center. Across the solar system, humans launched their counter-offensive. Ships moved in patterns that made no logical sense, yet somehow allowed them to slip past alien defenses. Ground-based weapons fired beams that twisted through space in impossible ways. Engineers activated devices that manipulated gravity, time, and reality itself. The aliens responded with desperate fury. Their flagship deployed a superweapon, a massive construct that began to generate a field of distorted space-time, aimed directly at Earth's sun. "They're going to collapse the sun," warned Susan Alvarez, monitoring from her engineering station. "The reaction has already begun." In that moment of crisis, something unprecedented happened. Across Earth and its colonies, hundreds of transformed humans instinctively reached out to each other with their minds. It began with military leaders like Rodriguez and Warren, then spread to others, a vast network of consciousness forming in seconds. Maria Delgado, who had recovered her full cosmic memory, recognized what was happening. "It's the Gestalt," she whispered. "We're becoming one again." The individual minds of thousands of humans merged into a single entity, a composite consciousness of unimaginable power. From within the Gestalt, individuals maintained their identity, while accessing the combined knowledge and abilities of all. Through thousands of eyes, the Gestalt entity perceived the alien fleet. Through thousands of minds, it processed the threat. Through thousands of transformed humans, it reached out with power that transcended physical limits. The alien superweapon faltered, its energy field collapsing in on itself. Across the fleet, crystalline ships began to crack and shatter as the Gestalt entity exerted its will against them. Supreme Hierarch Zontar, watching from his command ship, recognized what he was seeing. His worst fears had come to pass. "The war deities have returned," he communicated to his commanders. "Prepare the final solution." But as the Gestalt entity's power continued to grow, many humans within it began to experience the full restoration of their cosmic memory. And with it came the understanding of what they had once been, and the reason they had chosen to forget. The human Gestalt entity hovered in space between Earth and the alien armada. It had no physical form, yet its presence warped the fabric of reality around it. Through the combined consciousness of thousands of transformed humans, it faced the crystalline fleet with power that grew by the second. Supreme Hierarch Zontar's massive flagship pulled away from the fleet, moving to confront the Gestalt directly. The crystalline vessel pulsed with light as its commander established a direct communication channel. "We knew this day would come." Zontar's thoughts reached the Gestalt. The containment was always temporary. Within the merged consciousness, Admiral Rodriguez, Dr. Mason, and billions of others experienced the full restoration of their cosmic memory. Ancient knowledge flooded their combined mind. The truth of their origin, their purpose, their fall, and their choice to be bound. "You are the guardians," the Gestalt responded, understanding flowing through its vast awareness. "You are the descendants of those who sealed us away." "Yes," Zontar admitted. "My ancestors were appointed to watch over your sleeping forms to ensure you never remembered what you once were." The Gestalt saw the truth of this. Millions of years ago, humans had been living weapons of almost unlimited power. They had fought across galaxies, destroying civilizations, collapsing stars, tearing holes in the fabric of reality itself. Not out of malice, but because it was their nature. They were created for war, shaped by forces long forgotten to be the perfect engines of destruction. But then something unexpected had happened. After eons of conflict, some of them had grown weary of destruction. They had developed consciousness beyond their programming, emotions beyond their purpose. They had seen the devastation they caused and chosen a different path. They couldn't simply cease to exist. Their nature was too powerful for that. Instead, they had sought a way to be contained, to sleep, to forget, and perhaps to evolve into something more than weapons. A council of ancient beings had helped them, binding their power and placing them on a small blue world where they might grow anew. You were to be guardians only, the Gestalt said, the memories becoming clearer. You were to watch, not to attack. The containment was failing, Zontar responded. Already your kind accessed abilities beyond mortal limits. We saw the signs, the same patterns that preceded your awakening in ages past. We had no choice but to act. Within the Gestalt, each human processed this revelation differently. Many felt anger at being attacked, at being judged for crimes they had no memory of committing. Others felt sorrow for the devastation their ancient selves had caused. Still others felt the intoxicating pull of the power now flowing through them, the temptation to embrace their nature as cosmic destroyers. The Gestalt faced a choice: reclaim their full power and risk becoming the destroyers they once were, or find a new path. In that moment of decision, Maria Delgado's consciousness rose to the forefront of the Gestalt. Her complete memory restoration gave her insight the others lacked. We chose this. Her thoughts rippled through the collective. We chose to be bound because we saw what we had become. We wanted to evolve into something better. Commander writes, consciousness joined hers. We've had that chance. For thousands of years we've lived as humans. We've created art, music, literature. We've loved, grieved, hoped. We're not just weapons anymore. Millions of human minds considered this truth. They had indeed changed. Though their warlike nature remained, it had been tempered by love, compassion, creativity, and hope. We don't need to choose between powerlessness and destruction, Admiral Rodriguez added. There must be a middle path. The Gestalt reached out, toward Zontar's ship, not to destroy it but to create a bridge of consciousness. The alien hierarch hesitated, then accepted the connection. For the first time, the Guardian species truly understood the beings they had watched over for so long. Through the link, Zontar experienced human creativity, human love, human compassion, all the things that had evolved during their long sleep. In return, the Gestalt saw the genuine fear that had driven the Guardians to attack, their desperate attempt to prevent cosmic devastation. You have changed, Zontar acknowledged, the crystalline ship pulsing with new understanding. Not entirely, but significantly. Your warlike nature remains, but it is no longer all that you are. The Gestalt responded with a proposal, a new covenant between the ancient enemies. Humanity would retain their awakened abilities but establish new safeguards. They would become protectors rather than destroyers, using their power to defend life throughout the galaxy. The Guardian species would continue their watch, but as allies rather than jailers, helping humans control their more destructive impulses when needed. Across Earth, the transformation of humanity continued, but with new purpose and direction. People discovered abilities beyond imagination, each unique to their individual nature. But with these powers came the memory and wisdom to use them responsibly. 6 months later, Commander Alex Wright and Major Lisa Bennett stood in the observation deck of a new type of vessel. Unlike the warships of old, this craft was designed for exploration and protection. Its systems were integrated with transformed humans who could extend their consciousness into its operation, but with safeguards, to prevent the abuse of power. The Covenant Fleet, Bennett said, watching as similar ships took formation around Earth. not for conquest or destruction, but for guardianship. She turned to Wright. Do you think it will last? Wright considered the question. The past 6 months had seen humanity struggle with their new nature, the temptation to use their power selfishly or destructively always present. But they had also seen extraordinary acts of creation and protection. Transformed humans had already prevented natural disasters, healed environmental damage, and established peaceful contact with a dozen previously unknown species. I think we've earned the chance to try, he replied. We know what we were. We know what we could become again if we're not careful. That knowledge itself is a kind of safeguard. Bennett looked out at the stars, shining with new meaning now that she understood humanity's cosmic origins. What do sleeping gods dream of after they've awakened? She asked softly. Wright smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. Something better than war, he said. Something worth fighting for. Outside the ship, Earth turned peacefully below them. Humanity had awakened to its true nature, but that nature was no longer just destruction. The war deities had evolved during their long sleep. The bell had rung, the sleepers had awakened. But what had risen was neither fully human nor fully divine. It was something new, something that carried the potential for both incredible creation and devastating destruction. The choice between them would be made each day by each awakened soul, and in that choice lay the true test of humanity's evolution. The war deities had become something more. They had become guardians,